Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Chrissy here, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about Out of Africa by a lady. I'm gonna put her name below because despite my efforts to even practice this off camera, I cannot pronounce her name, but her pen name was Karen Blixen, and she wrote this memoir, the time that she spent in Kenya from 1914 to 1931. Just to give you some context of what was happening around the world, there was World War I going on, and Kenya was under British rule. Kind of takes on an anthropological approach in the sense that she talks mostly about her experiences in Kenya. It very much gives you an idea of the surroundings that she was in, as opposed to mostly talking about her as a person. I love the cover of this book. It's one of the reasons why I bought this book. Definitely a phrase that comes to mind is don't judge a book by its cover, or do judge a book by its cover. It's a Penguin classic, so I was like, oh yeah, definitely, I'm obviously gonna read that. But yeah, I have very mixed opinions of this book. I started it in January and just could not for the life of me get into it and finish it, mostly because of the tone of the book. It sounded very pretentious, and views that came out of this book were of somebody who's had very little education about what Africans are or who they are. For whatever reason, I decided to pick it up again, but then I thought, this is a lady who her whole life has lived a privileged life, and then she throws herself in a society that is very, very different to her own, and she's trying to understand and figure out what this whole world is about. I guess I can't really be too harsh on somebody who does that. Where else would she have been able to gain a real life experience of Africa than to actually go there and live in Africa? This book is about Karen Blixen, who decided to go to Kenya with her newlywed husband and start a new life for themselves there. Karen was quite a wealthy lady, or came from a wealthy family. She had the space to live her life not worrying about money, and she chose to go and do that in Kenya. As soon as she arrived there, her marriage quickly broke down, and she was faced with the decision of whether to carry on living in Kenya, which she did, and she had a coffee farm for several years before leaving to relocate back. First thing I want to talk about is her writing style. It's very visceral, it's all very raw and honest and open. She talks about her ups and downs, the realizations that she has, in a very open way, so I felt like I really got to know who she was. You get the sense from this book that she's a very intelligent woman and writes so beautifully and thinks about things. She pays very careful attention to what is around her, the people that are around her, and describes things in just incredible detail. I love people who can write like that, even more so for her because she learned English as a second language. That is incredibly difficult to do, to learn a new language and be able to write in it so beautifully. Wow, that I have immense respect for her. Her writing style is just superb. Even though her writing is filled with snobbery and cultural insensitivity, you also get the sense that she is sympathetic and has a very adventurous heart. Second part of the book, you definitely get the sense of her melancholy. She falls in love again, and that fails because tragically the guy passed away. The sadness, the deep sense of sadness that she feels at how her life has sort of not panned out in the way that she thought it was. But also the second part of the book focuses on the realizations that she has whilst she's living there. This is the sort of book that you can just dip in and out of. Like I said, I started it, absolutely hated it. When I picked it back up, I actually went to the later chapters of the book. Things that I didn't like so much about this book, as I said, it has a sort of arrogance about her, and two conclusions that she comes to whilst writing this book are also a real huge source of irritation for me. Karen Blixen believed that Africans and Europeans were fundamentally different, and there was nothing that anyone could do about that. And when she arrived there, you can definitely hear that in her writing. She treats black people quite condescendingly. The people that were working there, the natives, I think she refers to them as squatters. That's their land and she calls them squatters. I was like, what? Excuse me? Saying that Africans are backward because they haven't been through the Renaissance period. And I guess in a way she's comparing her life in Europe to her life in Africa. What I find quite funny about that as well is that during the time that she was writing this book is the same time that Virginia Woolf was writing as well, and it was a very difficult time for women at that point because they were not allowed to be able to express themselves, they were not allowed money, they were not allowed the freedom to be independent and taken seriously as writers especially. And it's kind of ironic that she looked on Africans as being so deficient, backward, when really that point in time, I think the career that she was in or striving to be in was a very difficult one for women. But the other thing that I think I found quite interesting is that Karen Blixen believed being an aristocrat was something that was only a white person thing, and then she gets to know this black man, I think he was a Maasai, and then reaches a conclusion that Maasais and white people can be aristocrats and nobody else can be an aristocrat. And I think it's because she really gets on with this man in a non-romantic way, but finds him very interesting and has great conversations with him. She finds that they really get on at a deep level, a level that she understands and that he understands, and then changes her worldview because of that. What she experienced was that she was able to get on with somebody of a different race in a way that she never ever thought she would. She didn't think that people of that race could have the same values as she did. I think that was an interesting part for most people that were reading this book, especially at that time, that thought the same as her. I think they were challenged by that view. I believe that this book is instrumental in the literature and historical sphere. I can see how it is in terms of literature because her writing is very, very beautiful. I can also see how it contributes historically because she talks of the Kikuyus, she talks of the Maasai, the Somali, and a few other people that she came across while she was living in Kenya. And there was no sort of political views that were voiced here, but a lot of the people that came across each other were from very different parts of Africa. I mean, she doesn't focus on the themes, but she mentions that these two are people of different camps. From that point of view, it can be seen as quite important as a historical text because it shows how people of that area, that small part, actually got on despite being of different religions and different cultures. At the heart of it, when I got to the end of this book, I realized that Karen Blixen was actually a compassionate woman, very thoughtful, very intelligent, who was quite adventurous and also an admirer of different cultures. I'll probably give it a 2 out of 5 or 3 star on Goodreads because as much as I liked the writing style and understood her perspective, but I don't agree with her fundamental views. So that's probably why I would give it that star rating. It's not a book that I would recommend as a must read, but I think if you're interested in memoirs, if you're interested in Karen Blixen as an important English classical literature writer, then I would definitely recommend this book. So yeah, there you go guys, that's my review of this book. I hope you enjoyed it and thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, definitely like to support my channel and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Thanks guys, bye.